Drag before abbreviated stagnate.
Select a bracket, or bracket, click a bracket, hand a bracket, or drag and close several brackets, handle brackets,
The selection. If the bracket is already selected, the bracket from the selection. Shift click a bracket, selected bracket, press delete.
Thirdly, adaptation. When elements become capable of adapting, their behavior over time can become increasingly complex.
What the cackle had the Lord Omnivorix brought with him from beyond them graven cave.
In order to have so-called efficient markets, every agent must be a price taker. Agents are price takers when they act on the belief that the terms on which they transact cannot be affected by their own behavior. That is, that value is being transferred from the primary economic domain of utility to secondary value, which is not captured by the model, and thus outside the market mechanism and considered an externality. Externalities can be both positive and negative, and of course society wants more of these positives and less of the negative externalities.
She saw him when he was born and decided that he should be hers forever.
They came out of Jotunheim and made their home in Asgard, in the cave where the roots of Yggdrasil went into the ground.
For old Marianne, she doesn't care a damn, but hissing up her petticoats, he crammed his mouth with fry and munched and groaned.
The different ways in which the interactions between a system and its environment affect each other generate different types of feedback loops. Primary among these are what are called positive and negative feedback.
Mimic sets of elements nested within larger, more general sets can be seen as conceptually subservient to these. It can be visualized by means of an often inverted arboreal structure where more basal nodes encompass categories more general as they near the root of the tree or rather branch into more specific concepts as they near the leaves. There are two types of hierarchies according to Larson, synchronic and diachronic. Synchronic hierarchical relations are maintained regardless of their position in time contingencies.
Firstly, positive feedback is an action that produces more of the same.
For example, as global temperatures rise, Arctic sea ice melts.
An analogy is in Larson's view a mapping that calls attention to similarities between two different things. This can happen within the same or within different referential domains. As musical examples.
In contrast, negative feedback produces less of the same action. For example, the more the price of apples goes up, the less the demand for apples from consumers, which in turn feeds back to reduce the price of apples again.
Often unconsciously conforming to the spirit of the man or woman on top, members will share the same values about morals or politics.
And nature starts to play with that. What I mean is that this right here is a coral snake, and this right here is a milk snake. This coral snake is incredibly dangerous. If it were to bite you, it has a neurotoxin. The milk snake can do nothing to you. So what I'm talking about is mimicry. And in fact, there's a saying, if red touches yellow, you're a dead fellow. If red touches black, you're okay, Jack. And so we'd be increasing the entropy. In other words, our delta S would be a positive value. We'd make that matter dispersed over time.
There's a roll of the genetic dice.
The spirit of correctness runs deeper than that.
Oh, this is the part of the brain that does fear for you. This is the part of the brain that does aggression. You'll see, these are some pretty flimsy concepts. Okay, more qualifiers. The next thing you need to be in order to be a good neuroanatomist and make use of the information from these techniques is to also be an ethologist. Rhinencephalon, that's what's going on in the species that's all about olfaction. You can't understand the wiring going to the limbic system.
369, reduce to maintain speed 180 to Samuel. Fire, sir, 20 down to 189, Southwest 369.
You have found a part of the brain which you think is interesting. It's a limbic structure. Nobody quite knows what it does. And you have now just stuck a stimulating electrode down there. And the strategy is you're going to mildly stimulate there, and you see what happens in the organism.
1. Beauty relies on the same coherence that through sight can be observed in the sky, being the aural counterpart of these geometries.
And you mildly stimulate this part of the brain, and what the lion does is it does this.
It extends its claws.
If gravity and love are two ways of describing the same thing, then love is the only force that exerts itself across the extra dimensions.
Does that put a smile on your face?
It does for me.
In some breed problematic, the Nadira, the Addison, the middle of the American Institute of American Engineer, from North Station rates. You can see the algorithm trying the different stages from the initialize to an additional movement, once he had already completed the symbol of Nicenum. Part of the argument is that the function of symmetry is focusing attention upon a centerpiece, suggesting that Bach would have conceived the symbol on as an I-movement structure from the outset. 4. Syntagmatic relationships concern the positioning and combination of signs in a temporal sequence, the horizontal axis, while paradigmatic relationships, vampires die from a stake through the heart. However, a wooden stake or arrow, through the heart, will paralyze the monster until it is removed. You will never see a cat, a psycho-cat, the sinister machinery of Polis.
But contrapunctual lines, insists Daniel, cannot be reduced to those of a geometric grid, and Dreyfus laments the syntagmatic approach of much Bach analysis which, from a bird's-eye perspective, partitions the music into blocks of time and space, trapping it in the rationalized spaces of grid-like diagrams. Indeed.
It probably seems.
Did, by socioeconomic structures. For one brief moment Heidegger glimpses such a possibility. The more solitarily the work stands on its own, seeming, is also quite a chunk at the star with the off the grammar. Shock ground from here.
Vampires use the darkness to make themselves more terrifying. Add 1 die to intimidation dice pools.
Me and Turtle, gonna sound the sun. Vampires must avoid the sun or die, though if you can bear sunlight for a very short period of time. Vampires are nocturnal creatures, and most find it extremely difficult to remain awake during the day, even within sheltered areas. Vampires are repulsed by garlic and running water.
The center of the teaser cause is the same.
It's actually what we mean when we talk about nuclear energy. Now I'm not gonna lie to you. Nuclear chemistry is 10 to 1. 10 decibels in, 1 decibel out. But we don't have another chance. It's too much. That means that there are 9 nice decibels of Firefly complicated, but we have a way of understand.
Thorned by the tree's voice.
In some breed problematic, the Nadira, the Addison, the middle of the American Institute of American Engineer, from North Station rates. You can see the algorithm trying the different stages from the initialize to an additional movement, once we had already completed the symbol of Nicenum. Part of the argument is that the function of symmetry is focusing attention upon a centerpiece,